Testing. Just a few housekeeping announcements before we get started. Please remember to silence your cell phones. You are not permitted to record today's talks, but don't worry, they'll be uploaded afterwards to the TEDx YouTube channel. And if you need to leave the theater at any point in time, please use the doors at the top of the theater.
Welcome to something special. Welcome to TEDx. This TEDx event is part of a global conversation that takes place every day in every corner of the world. In schools, in theaters, in workplaces, even in prisons, people gather to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. More than 3,000 TEDx events are held every year in 170 countries. It's a remarkable thing. TEDx events are self-organized under a license from TED, a non-profit organization devoted to discovering and sharing powerful ideas in the form of TED Talks. It's not TED itself, but your local TEDx team of volunteers that has done all the work to put on today's event, including booking all of the speakers. It's this team's ideas, dedication, and time that have made this possible. We really hope today's program sparks an exciting conversation. This is a day for curiosity and for skepticism, for inspiration and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you will take out. And now, on with the show.
Hello, everyone. We are so excited to finally welcome you here today for our 2023 TEDxVCU event, both in person and via live stream. Thank you for your patience. My name is Stella Tessarolo. I'm the director of TEDxVCU.
And my name is Christopher Corey. I am the co-director of TEDxVCU. All right.
So today's event is bound together by our theme, which is Reframed. So every TEDxVCU event has a unique theme that is used to frame the talks and the design elements of every event.
So this year we decided to reevaluate, reframe, retheme, and re-examine the things that the frames through which we view people, places, and ideas.
And now we'd like to welcome Director of Facilities and Experience Design from the ICA, Michael Leese.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Institute for Contemporary Art. It's wonderful to see you all here. As Chris and Stella just said, I'm director here of the Department of Facilities and Experience Design. First off, I want to congratulate all of you that have put this together. This is your second year here. Stella, I know you worked on it last year as well. So a big round of applause for Stella, Chris, and Justin, and the rest of the team that have put this together. Thanks to my team for all the help that they've done. I want to say just something about the ICA, and that we're an institute for contemporary art. And what we do is also, I would say, a reframing at all times of sort of the world that we're looking in. And the way we do it is by working with contemporary artists from across the globe. And those artists that we're working with who are really on the cusp of fresh ideas, new ways of thinking, design thinking is a way you'll hear about it later today, help us see different pathways towards our future. The Institute for Contemporary Art, we're non-collecting. That means we don't own anything that you're going to see on view here. The only thing we own is actually the building that you're in right now. And that's by design, because every year there are a few more thousand students who join us here at VCU. And the thing about students is the students, like the ones you'll hear from today, students are focused on the horizon. They're thinking about their own future. They're thinking about that major that they're doing. They're thinking about that class that they're taking, but they're also thinking about where their lives are going. What they're learning is often how to build upon what has come before them and make the world a better place. And that's what the ICA is absolutely for, right? So next, I hope you've taken a moment to see our exhibitions. We turn 5 this coming April. We've only been open for 5 years. We're like, we're kindergartners, and we're still learning how to do what it is that we're doing. So I can't tell you how much it means to all of us here at the ICA that you're here today, and that we're a venue for TEDxVCU, and that we're a place where students can make the future happen, and that we get to be a part of it with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you for that amazing introduction, Michael. And now to discuss her journey of discovering the intersection between theater and medicine is Therese Weidenkopf. Tess is a first-year student at the VCU School of Medicine after graduating with degrees in theater and biochemistry from Roanoke College. She aims to inspire appreciation of art's role on the path to healing and connection. Please welcome Tess Weidenkopf.
Thank you. I've been a teacher, captain of my hockey team, a professional pool player, an astronomer, a student researcher, a straight A student, a vegan, a recovering kleptomaniac, a medical student, and a patient staring death in the eyes. Now, these are roles that I've held in my own life and also those on stage. And I bet you're wondering which is which. I'll give you a hint. I'm not a recovering kleptomaniac. But in all seriousness, the point isn't whether or not these roles have been in the real life or in the pretend world. The point is the perspective that these roles have offered me. As a patron of the arts and a student of science, I have lived in two worlds and delved into the powers of my left and right brain. Studying as an actress has enabled me to recognize the idiosyncrasies that shape a person's behavior that may not be so visible to the audience. The goal of an authentic performance is to enrapture the audience and extend reality to what is being performed on stage. This is accomplished through actors being so present and focused in the moment that they are able to take, receive, process information, and put forth an outcome that matches the energy and the motives of their characters and their castmates' characters. Even though the script is memorized and everyone knows what line is coming next, the best performances stem from an ability to be authentic, to keep the emotions fresh by reacting in real time. Now, this applies to life, as basically every social interaction is set up like a scene in a movie. So let's say that you're at a party with this person, we'll call them person A, and you're having a laugh and you feel like you are just killing this conversation. But this is person A's body language. Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course, yeah, okay. Damn, that's crazy. Actually, I have to go. Now, from an outside perspective, an audience watching that interaction between you and person A probably feels this viscerally uncomfortable reaction of secondhand embarrassment, as you are all probably feeling right now. But why is that? Person A didn't actually say anything that they didn't want to be there, but their body language conveyed an emotion that they weren't really comfortable with being there. So you're feeling fine during the party, but when you go home, you start your over-analyzing process, as we all do. And you start thinking, oh my God, they really didn't like me. Why was I so awkward? My hands were sweating. Why were they sweating? They're still sweating. Did I have to show them that Pinterest board of Pedro Pascal? But why do you feel this way? I mean, person A didn't say anything disrespectful or do anything overtly rude, but their body language conveyed a subconscious emotion which you internalized and it stuck with you. Being conscientious of your body and its movements in space is quintessential for good communication and opening a forum for vulnerability between two people. This is important whether or not you're asking somebody out on a date, trying to strike a business deal, or even just trying to impress at a job interview. But it's especially important in medicine. In medical school, we have these things called standardized patient actors, or SPs. And now these standardized patient actors help us with our physical exam skills and our interview skills, so that way, once we get to third year, we're ready to interact with real patients in our clinical rotations. You know, these SPs offer us feedback after every session, whether or not it's from our demeanor, to our rapport, to our ability even to perform these exam skills. One of my colleagues was talking to me, saying that she kept getting the same feedback from every single SP encounter, and she couldn't understand why. They kept telling her she was anxious. She didn't feel anxious. She understood the material, and she knew how to perform the exams, yet that is what she kept being told. In discussing this with her further, we realized a lot of her motions were at straight lines and at right angles. What do I mean by that? If you walk towards someone in a straight line like this, it's aggressive. You're a little step back, like, oh, that was a lot. If you walk to them that same way, but it's a little bit more slowed down and withdrawn, it's anxious. That's the emotion that you're conveying to that person. Versus if you walk in more of a circular motion, even just a slight sway from side to side. There's an area of confidence within yourself as you move your body. Something even as simple as taking off your stethoscope. If you take it off at a right angle and pull down, it's aggressive and assertive, versus if it's a slight rotation of your wrist. Rotation of your joints conveys an area of comfort and trust within your own self, versus moving on straight planes at right angles, which show distrust in yourself. And your patient can pick on those subconsciously. So after discussing this with her, she incorporated it and has had much more pleasant feedbacks from her SPs. Acting has provided a level of this interpretation of people's body movements that I feel that all forms of art have to offer. Now, my love of theater and medicine didn't emerge from thin air. It didn't come from a deep desire to be on Grey's Anatomy. Shonda Rhimes, if you're watching, please cast me. But it actually came from being the patient myself. When I was 16, I went through an 8-month period of paralyzing, debilitating migraines and body aches. I was rushed from specialist to specialist, from hospitalist to neurologist, who all told me the same thing. We're not sure what you have. As someone who had built their life around academic achievement to become a surgeon and sports to become a college athlete, this news was devastating. My identity was ripped away from me as the pain decreased my normal function to basically nothing. I saw my body wither away in the mirror each day, and I saw the stress on my family's face as we searched for a treatment, and I clung to a life that didn't feel worth living. It was in and out of hospitals and doctor's appointments that I realized that my life could dissipate instantly. It wasn't until many months after the initial onset of migraines that I was finally diagnosed with neurological Lyme's disease. Now, for my fellow medical students in the room, I bet you're all thinking, oh, Lyme disease, I got this one. You present to the clinic with a bullseye rash, we order a Lyme's test, it's positive, pump you full of doxycycline, send you off, and just pray you don't get reactive arthritis. But I didn't present with a bullseye rash. And my Lyme's test was negative. It took someone with a holistic approach to deep dive into the literature and analyze me from every angle in order to diagnose me. My experience with the physician who cured me unveiled a marriage between artistic tendencies and scientific ones. She was a music major in college. Music training requires attention to detail and severe focus, as it's the translation of a visual medium to a kinesthetic medium to an auditory medium. Her ability to see fine details allowed her to see something in me that everybody else had missed. She also had an air about her that made me feel so comfortable that I was able to articulate my pain origins and story in a way I never had before. She made me feel heard, seen, unrushed, and understood. I wasn't a burden or another patient off the checklist to her. I was someone worth seeing, worth healing, who had humanity and a true story. Her care changed the course of my life and inspired me to pick up everything once again and try to become a physician. She also inspired me to study art and theater as a way to understand perspectives in humanity, as well as suffering. Now, while it may seem simple and glamorous that I went through Lyme treatment, studied theater, and became super introspective and good at body movement and all that stuff, that was not the case. I was resentful, and I struggled through treatment, often feeling like I was suffering more than those around me, and I didn't understand what I had done wrong to be dealt the hand I had. I was angry and closed off from the world around me. It wasn't until I went to college and I started studying plays like Oedipus Rex, An Enemy of the People, and The Children's Hour, whose characters were so complex, choosing from right and wrong, that I was able to embody, that I changed the way I viewed everyone around me. I was fascinated by the kinesthetic nature of theater and the ability to use subconscious emotion and body language to portray that as a way to understand perspectives of the world. As someone who aspires to be a surgeon, I aim to make someone as comfortable with me as possible through these techniques, as no one is more vulnerable than when they are naked, unconscious, on a bed, about to be cut open with their life in the hands of basically a stranger. I aim to understand the privilege I will have in holding someone's personhood and use these skills I have learned in order to open a forum of comfort and vulnerability with my patients. The expressive and compassionate nature of art merges harmoniously with the drive of understanding the world around us that scientists have. Science describes the causes of the world around us. Art allows the expression of oneself in the world around us. And I believe that physicians blend the two in order to heal the world around us. Now I will give you one final story of how being a patient and an actress has shaped my life and impacted the way that I will proceed with patient care in the future. When I was in college, I was working as a nursing assistant at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. When I entered the room of a man on the neurotrauma unit on comfort care, I was told by the nurses that he was unresponsive, but nevertheless, when I went in his room to clothe, bathe him, and change his sheets, I told him about my day and everything I did. And as I turned to leave the room, he grabbed my hand, brought it to his mouth, kissed it, and placed it on his chest. And we sat there in comforting silence until he fell asleep. Many weeks later, I was placed to sit with a patient diagnosed with COVID-19 who was in his final hours. As I entered the room, I realized it was the same man who had held my hand weeks before. When I walked in and sat down, I turned on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and I sang "It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood" to him as he slowly passed away. I felt truly infinite as the ephemeral nature of the world passed away, and it was him and I in the present moment. But I also felt helpless. Helpless in the fact that the sciences would be of no use to him in these last moments. It was then I was truly grateful for my theatrical background, as the only thing I could do for him was hold his hand, sing to him, see his humanity, and realize that he had a story to tell. This experience further solidified that I will become a physician who strives to heal all through the science and art of medicine. Thank you.
Thank you, Tess, for such a beautiful expression of the intersectionality between medicine and theater. Next up is a fellow artist, Lei Jia. She is an art student at the VCU School of the Arts, and she will be discussing the field of tactile animation and what it can mean to each of us. She aims to move freely through mediums and genres, defining art not as a noun, but as a verb. Please welcome Lei.
I am an animator. When I was studying animation, we had this exercise where we had to guide each other, walk outside, blindfolded. Now I would like to invite you to close your eyes and take on this journey with me. So you start off from the classroom. When you hear the echo, go, 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 is replaced by the traffic. You know you're on the street. You might hear some cars swooshing by, or some people walking closer and further. You might hear some birds singing. Maybe you're walking past by a tree, and you hear some water sound. I actually don't know how to do this, but you know you're by the canal. You can pretty much tell where you are based on what you hear. And it was pretty fun, up until you reach a place, and it was very quiet. You get confused for a second, but soon you realize it is an art museum, just like here. Now you can open your eyes. Welcome back. Happy to see you again, but I wasn't happy when I was in the museum, because I know that everyone else can see the paintings on the wall, the sculptures on the floor, everyone except me. That place wasn't made for me. There was an accessibility issue with that museum, but it also got me to think about my own art. As a visual artist and animator, I didn't realize that my art could be so inaccessible just as long as I can't see. It sounds very obvious, but it didn't occur to me that I will be so frustrated when I am in that position. What would I do if I go visually impaired or blind? I can make sculptures or music, but the only thing that I can't make is animation or film. They're just moving images on a flat screen. I can't even rewatch my own clips. Well, there are video descriptions for visually impaired audience, and I've been volunteering it for so long that I know how hard it is to properly describe them, and let alone that. As an ex-animator, would I be really satisfied with descriptions? So I started to think, why not use touch to deliver stories and effects so that I can keep working even if I can't see? That's how I created my first tactile cinema piece called哪吒Conquers the Dragon King. It's adapted from a 1979 Chinese animation film, which itself was adopted from a Chinese folklore about a superpower boy named哪吒battling with the evil Dragon King who doesn't reign for the farmers and eat children. Sounds terrible. The person in the center is the audience, blindfolded, wearing headphones that is playing the audio that you'll hear from the video. The two of us on the side are the cinema that is giving the experience. I would like to show you a short clip so that you get a sense of what tactile cinema is like.
Once upon a time, there was a general called Jing. His wife got pregnant. It took her 6 years before she gave birth.
Oh my God, darling, what is it?
My baby is a ball? It must be a monster. I shall kill this monster.
It turns out to be a little boy.
You are not a normal person. You are a seed for an immortal. I'm Tai the immortal, and I will take you as my student.
Feels like we're torturing people with trash, and that's why people love watching it. In my definition, tactile cinema is a storytelling format that delivers cinematic experience through gestures, materials, and touch. But how do I know it's working? So I collected some survey after each participant, and according to their responses, people are really getting it. They are surprised that the intense process of pregnancy is represented by the blowing balloon, and it grows in the fight between the two hands, being the battle between the Naja and the Dragon King, and their bodies become the mountain and the sea, and emerged when they are approached as Naja to take up the responsibility of protecting the people. All that is to prove that touch can deliver cinematic experience. But apart from that, people are also surprised that the rich experience was brought by such simple props. A storm might be just a big paper rubbing against your back with water spray and hair dryer. And the dragon is made up of plastic gloves. To achieve all those effects, you don't need IMAX or VFX. You just close your eyes and have the tactile feelings that brings you all the imaginations. It's like a 4D cinema without the first 3D. But even better, because it is accessible. I presented this in Beijing Funaki Animation Festival, and during the festival, I invited one of my friends who was blind to come and experience this. He was happy because it was fun. I was happy because I know that Animation Festival is not really a place that is made for him, but this time, I finally have something that he can experience without losing any more details than other people. But I have to say, tactile cinema and tactile art is not just for a visually impaired audience. Touch is the universal language that can reach people with any abilities. It is accessible and, more importantly, inclusive. And that's the kind of art that we're looking for. But it doesn't mean that everyone is in favor of being touched. Every time we perform, there will be a bunch of people on the side watching us. And it was very fun to watch, but they think it's enough to just watch to get the experience. Or maybe they just don't want to pay. I understand that. And in response, I tell them this story. During the festival, the booth owner that is right next to me had witnessed over 100 performances over those days. Sorry about that. But on the last day, they decided to come and experience it themselves. They said, even after watching so many times, it was still so different to experience it with their own bodies. Feeling is always different from seeing. And that's why I believe that touch is not just tactile art is not just a translation from visual arts into touch. It is an independent genre that may hold even more potential than the overexploited visual art. Compared to the massive amount of visual artworks, tactile art remains barely explored. Almost all the possible visual styles have been explored by previous artists, yet what is the last time you've seen touch in a museum? Probably the sign of don't touch. But that's also why it doesn't have the same solidified aesthetics as visual art does. Think about that. We have comfortable and unpleasant touch, but we don't have beautiful nor ugly touch. In Naja Conquers the Dragon King, we always have the dragon to go around the participant's neck to mimic the feeling of a snake crawling on you and naturally makes you feel scared of the Dragon King. It is very effective, yet it is not that pleasant, and it's neither beautiful nor ugly. Tactile art always creates this field of sensation for you to engage with. It is fluid and non-judgmental, and those qualities themselves contain so much possibilities for us to explore. Not only tactile art is very different from visual art, tactile artists also work in a different way than visual artists. As an animator, my job is to sit in a dark studio all day, try to finish something and send it over to festivals or platforms. At most, I do some Q&As, but I really don't have to. I don't have to engage with people in order to be an animator. But to be a tactile artist, I have to literally touch people. I have to form a temporary, intimate relationship with people and collaborate with them to complete the experience. And during that, you got a lot to do. Some people can't raise their arms very well. You need to adjust to that. And people react to things differently. Then you do trigger warnings beforehand and change your act based on their act. This is a process of negotiating the boundaries and communicating with each other. And when you reach a touch that resonates with you and them, you feel like your bodies are connected in a new way. And that's the fantastic thing of being a tactile artist. Not only during the presentation, in the creation process, we also have to collaborate. You have to test out your effects constantly and do rehearsals with people, or you might need a helper like I just did. That's why we initiated a tactile art collective called Tactile Eye, in which we do rehearsals, workshops, translations, seminars, and so on. In this process, we talk to each other, argue with each other, help with each other, and take one another into account. This is the biggest change that tactile art has given to me. It teaches me how to enjoy people's presence and gives me the courage to trust and work with people. Today, the pandemic has forced us to be separated from each other for so long, and even now, it hasn't completely gone away. Some of my classes are still doing hybrid, and touch has become a dangerous act. It is in this moment that we should cherish the value of touch even more. Touch is such a hidden treasure that brings us so much imaginations and possibilities, and more importantly, it connects us face to face, hand with hand. I would like to end my speech with a little exercise that you can do here to create your own tactile cinema sketch. We'll add one prop to哪吒Conquers the Dragon King in one of the fight scenes. And before that, I would like to invite you to close your eyes and move your body a little bit, maybe rub your hands, warm it up, and touch different parts of your clothes, different things that you have. Feel their differences, different textures and shapes. For example, I feel like my clothes is kind of roughy, but my dress is kind of smooth and silky. And when you're ready, find an object that you have with you and play with it, touch it in different ways, let it touch your different parts of the body. For example, I'll choose this badge that I have. It's hard on its edges and it has some rough textures. It has a pointy back. Pay attention to the patterns that stood out to you. And imagine that you are in a scene where哪吒is fighting the Dragon King with his army. What could this object be? Is it a tool? Is it a character? Or is it a mood or emotion? For example, I feel like this pointy needle scratching on my arms and hands is like the tension, intensity, the nervousness that哪吒is experiencing when he is in the battle. When you're happy with it, you can open your eyes, and that's your first tactile cinema sketch. Well, it's not perfect, but you can practice it and revise it with your friends, and you're ready to create your own tactile cinema piece today. Thank you.
Thank you, Lele, for introducing us to an innovative way of talking about art. Next up, discussing her journey on the path to coming out and what it means in society, we have Alex Smith-Scales. Alex is a first-year master's candidate at the VCU Brand Center studying creative brand management with a background in American Studies. She aims to introduce a new narrative of coming out and what it means to the queer experience. Please welcome Alex Smith-Scales.
The first house I ever lived in was my sorority house during my third year of college. I absolutely hated it. Not only was living with 13 other women a lot and kind of terrible, but I didn't feel like my quirks were appreciated by 75% of my housemates. Compare this to living in a small apartment townhome with my mom and grandma my entire life. I never questioned if I was cared for, supported, cherished, roasted, but also loved. That small apartment townhome was not a house by design, but it ultimately was a home. Someone who frequented this home was one of my sisters, who's actually 20 years older than me, so essentially a third parent. And ever since I've been in elementary school, she had remarked that I was okay with myself and my being until I looked around and saw that I wasn't average. And looking back, I can totally understand why she would say that. I mean, I would look at the girls in my class who I wanted the approval and attention of, and they just seemed to be magnetic. They drew crowds of people in. I mean, no one was calling them an Oreo, someone who's white on the inside, black on the outside. No one was making fun of the size of their arms or their bellies. They had fathers in their lives, and they especially weren't drama queens. I looked at all these things that made me myself and decided that there needed to be something that was fixed. There was something wrong. I was weird. I didn't like it. And I decided that in order to counteract the things of my identity that I couldn't change, that I needed to counteract it with something normal. And in my mind, the way to be normal was to win the affection of boys. I had built this whole world in my head where I was weird and needed fixing, so I instead lost myself in the world of romantic comedies at the time. And I noticed a common theme from watching dozens upon dozens, and the theme was love. Your problems will be fixed once you fall in love. If you can't fall in love, there's something wrong with you. If you don't want love, there's something more wrong with you. And I looked and I saw that these leads, they were inspiring. At the end of the movie, they had so much individuality and so much newfound strength, but it was rarely without a man standing next to them at the end. And I took note of that. And these leads didn't represent me at all. I mean, a lot of them were conventionally beautiful. A lot of them came from nuclear families. They weren't battling feelings of romance for the girl in their class that was mean to them. And I saw this and I wanted so badly to be like them. And considering that I came from a line of hard-working single mothers who faced everything with so much strength, I was like, okay, I don't want to do difficult things. I want to do easy things. I want to fall in love. I want a fiance. And so I hit the ground running steadfast to get one. It didn't matter that I didn't like men. It didn't matter that I really hated every boy in my class. All that mattered was that I could get a fiance. I mean, boys weren't people anymore. They were goals, tasks, conquests, obstacles. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. I wasn't happy either, but I was going to get a fiance at the end. This is dehumanization, aka heteronormativity. It's this idea that men and women only serve the purpose to be romantically and sexually attracted to one another. Not only does this cause really screwed up gender politics and dynamics, it really erases the possibility of queer identities ever thriving and seeing that they're viable. I looked and I saw how heteronormativity was ruling my life, and I never had a chance to slow down from the race, stop running, and remember that I'm not even attracted to who I'm supposed to be attracted to because everything around me was erasing the possibility of a queer identity. Heteronormativity was coined in 1991 by Michael Warner, and it built off the term compulsive heterosexuality coined in 1980 by Adrienne Rich. Compulsive heterosexuality is when queer people convince themselves that they are straight because everything in society is telling them that they are. I was doing this pretty much every day of my life. These are narratives that queer folk have to fight in order to find what really makes them happy and what they want out of life. But these are also narratives that live on the screen. I mean, Kim Possible had ounces more chemistry with Shigo than she ever did Ron Stoppable. It's still a crime against humanity that Missy Pantone was given a twin brother in Bring It On so that Torrance Shipman could fall in love with him instead of her. And it didn't help that the queer representation I saw growing up was Ellen DeGeneres, if you didn't know. Or the bury your gays trope, which is when the queer character mysteriously disappears or dies. Coming out stories and queer narratives were regulated to the very special episodes, which meant that they were infrequent, and when they were on the screen, they were very serious. And you should be scared to come out because you should be apprehensive that the cis straight people in your life are going to accept you, are going to support you, are going to love you. It makes the whole process so terrifying. But if we took a second and stopped running this race of heteronormativity, we could remember that coming out, reframed as coming home, would inspire feelings of celebration. It would inspire feelings of nervous excitement. It would be joyous. Anne-Marie Fortier talks about the coming out story as an established genre of self-narrative and self-identification. It's this idea that you are coming out from heterosexuality and leaving this childhood home of something that you've been told your whole life and something that everyone is pressuring to you, and you're coming into your true home of queerness. It's this idea that you are leaving behind everything you've ever known for something that is truly for you. But she takes it further and says the idea that the childhood home is the original default home turns the queer home into the other place, when for queer folks, it has always been the true place. I found that it wasn't about coming out from heterosexuality. It wasn't about defying straight people. It wasn't trying to fight heteronormativity, but it was really about coming into my own of my understanding of myself and who I was. But then I didn't know who I was. When I came out, I had so much anxiety about hanging out with longtime friends because I didn't know what the hell I was going to talk about. I mean, ever since I've been 12, I've made my personality dating boys. I mean, what I would do is 1 week, I'd pick a boy to have a crush on, he would reject me, and then the next week I'd pick another boy to have a crush on, and then he would also reject me. And that had been what I had been talking about literally for 12 years. I had to relearn so much about myself. I had to start seeing myself through a dynamic perspective, even though my friends and family had seen me that way all along. And I had to really reconcile with the fact that I was so much more than the girl that wanted a boyfriend, when in reality, I never even wanted a boyfriend at all. So I relearned all of these things, and I came to the conclusion that there's so many things about my personality that had given me annoyance that were actually wonderful. I was no longer scared to be seen as masculine in my behavior. I stopped asking friends if clothes made me look like a lesbian. And I'm here to tell you right now, if you're asking your friends if something makes you look like a lesbian because you're scared to be seen as a lesbian, you are probably a lesbian. I started unabashedly owning the fact that I love celebrity gossip and I casually like astrology. I fell in love with my bossy, boisterous personality, and ultimately I figured out that I do want marriage and children, not because it's something that I have to do, but because I want to spend the rest of my life with someone and build a family with them. I realized that all these things about me that I tried to change or suppress were actually so many wonderful things about me, and I felt so authentically myself. I had stopped running this race to get a fiance that was a man, and instead I turned around and gone to my home that was truly meant for me. To bring up Fortier again, the idea of coming home is a process of re-remembering things that you had suppressed to fit into something that was never truly yours. I found that the ability to love others coincided with the ability to love myself. I found that through coming out, I was able to actually redefine what it meant to be home, what it meant to be authentic, and what it meant to experience happiness. I found that the first time I danced at a gay bar with my now partner, I felt so safe and comfortable, but so alive and electric, like I had painted the walls this magnetic color. You know, I was finally home. There were walls that needed more painting, and there was furniture that needed cleaning and dusting off, but it was mine. And who was I? Well, I am a big, Black bipolar woman. I am an Aries sun, an Aquarius moon, and a Libra rising. I love celebrity gossip. My playlist ranges from Megan Thee Stallion to Casey Musgraves and everything in between. I'm a lover and a friend. I'm a lesbian. I am Alex Smith Scales, and I'm so happy and proud to be able to stand here and say that to you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, for sharing your powerful story with us and for reframing what it means to come out. Next up, we have A-Money, a Tunisian-American lyrical rapper studying media production and business here at VCU. She began making music in the height of 2020, during the height of the Black Lives Matter protests. Since then, through relatable lyrics and catchy melodies, she's been able to express hardships that give insight into her own life. Please welcome A-Money.
in my sleep. Why do they watch me weep up all night with these dreams? Never get the best of me. Hey, hey, never get the best of me. You don't know what's going on in someone's life, man. You can't assume shit. Never get the best of me. Drive Mercedes at 18, you know I'm rocking with antique. Ain't no passenger princess, drive myself around all week. Hey, hey, drive myself around all week. You don't know, you don't know, you don't know. I promise you don't know, you don't know. Hey everyone, my name is A-Money, and with today's show, I would like to show you all the complexity of human emotion. I think it's so interesting how, people are able to feel such differing emotions. For example, you could be nervous, but still be excited, or you can be sad, but still hopeful. So today, I'd like to take you all on the journey of rage and anger to sensitivity and passion. That last song was titled You Don't Know, and this next one is The Strength of Your Emotions. I wrote this next song for my mom. Unfortunately, she can't be here with us today, but I know she's always watching from heaven. You don't know the strength of your emotions. You don't know the strength of your emotions. Yeah, It's hard pushing when you feel like there's nothing left. Putting in the work eats me up with all the stress. Unable to process the ordinary things. Everyone says time will grow your wings, but how do you bring back something so suddenly taken away? There's no way to remove the pain, no way to make it okay. So I live my life high, I can't feel the time. I said it before, I'm dreaming. From the morning till the evening, I stay hypnotized. Hands tied, just a product of my life. You don't know the strength of your emotions. You don't know the strength of your emotions. J'aimerais que ma mère est ici. Je savais pas quoi apporter dans ma valise. J'ai préparé pour un moment pas facile, mais mes pensées sont ce n'est pas possible. J'entends que la vie continue, mais ma vie est cassée en morceaux. J'entends que je dois être forte, mais ma raison de réussir est morte. Mais en réalité, la vie en fait continue. Des souvenirs tournent dans mon cerveau. Je suis là et elle est en paradis. J'ai eu aucune idée que c'était la dernière fois que je pouvais dire bonne journée. You don't know the strength of your emotions. You don't know the strength of your emotions. 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 love you too, Ma. I'd like to thank everyone for your eyes, your ears, your love, and your support. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the speakers, and I'll see you guys later. Thank you.
Once again, give it up for Moni. We can't wait to see what she has in store for us later. Our next speaker is Tyler Mitchell, a second-year political science student. His passion for connecting communities will open our minds on how we think about infrastructure and show us the benefits of walkable cities. Please welcome Tyler Mitchell to the stage.
As a kid growing up in the suburbs, I never had a whole lot to do in my hometown. There was a strip mall about a 30-minute walk down the road one direction from my house, and the community pool about the same distance going the other way. Needless to say, I spent a lot of time pestering my parents, telling them I was bored or asking for rides somewhere. If I had a dime for every time I did this, I probably could have afforded to buy my own car at a very young age and explored the country myself. But my issue with the suburbs doesn't just end with being a bored and hyperactive child. It has a lot more to do with how American infrastructure is designed to accommodate cars instead of people. When I came to this realization, it kind of left me wanting more out of American cities and towns, somewhere where cars weren't a necessity, but an option. A lot of us have become so accustomed to car-based infrastructure in the States that we've become oblivious or maybe even willfully ignorant to a lot of the downsides that car-dependent infrastructure brings to our daily lives. Traffic-related fatalities are the 12th leading cause of death of Americans, a number 3 times higher than homicides. The EPA estimates that 27% of our annual carbon emissions come from the transportation sector. It's the highest of all our economic sectors. And the average American family spends $7,000 every year on gas and insurance, and that's not even taking into account the extra $9,000 that it takes to maintain a car throughout the course of its life. These are all uniquely American problems. So initially, when I was trying to find out what the reason was behind America being such an unsafe country to drive in, I thought it might have to do with population density, perhaps. The most dense cities were going to be the most dangerous to drive in. So I ran some numbers. I found traffic fatalities per capita for a number of states and cities, and the population density for each, and I did not find much of a correlation between these two factors. In fact, there may even be some evidence leaning in the opposite direction. For example, Baton Rouge, Louisiana was one of the more dangerous cities that I found. Louisiana as a whole, the most dangerous single-handedly out of the 21 states, cities, and countries I picked. 21 out of every 100,000 people living in Louisiana are going to die in a car accident. It's a startling statistic, right? It's a lot. And it's not that much higher than the national average. So if it doesn't have anything to do with population density, maybe it's more number of registered drivers per capita. So I ran the numbers again, and I did find a solid correlation between these two. Nothing for certain, but definitely much stronger. Out of the 21 cities, countries, and states I picked, the top 8 most dangerous places to drive out of my data set were all American. The only 2 not breaking the top 10 were Richmond, which came in about halfway, middle point, pretty safe. And New York City, which defied my population density argument, was actually one of the safest I analyzed, coming in at around 19. But there's only so much praise I can give to New York City, considering it's the 3rd highest polluted city in the country, or in the world. Remember that 27% I mentioned earlier? The amount of carbon that comes from our transportation sector? That's 1 billion tons of carbon every year. That's 6 times higher than the Netherlands' total carbon output, and about equal to France, Italy, and the UK's total carbon output combined. This graph details a comparison of the Netherlands and Pennsylvania's total carbon outputs because they're relatively similar in population size. It's already a bit striking how much more of a pie belongs to Pennsylvania, but when you realize that the Netherlands has 5 million more residents than Pennsylvania, it becomes a bit more jarring, especially considering the transportation sections here. Remember, we spend $7,000 every year to pump these greenhouse gases into our atmosphere. When it comes to walkable cities, though, gas and insurance savings are not the only upside. There's a term in economics called accessibility, which can essentially be boiled down to the easier it is for someone to participate in the economy, the more likely they are to participate, and the more an economy can grow. For a little example, I want everyone to imagine there are 2 taco stands having their grand opening on the same day. One of them is right across the street here on Broad Street. You can get a taco anytime you're on campus. It's convenient and it's easy. Another one is opening in a small, quaint little town in Missouri called Devil's Elbow, population about 200 people. Show of hands, who thinks they're going to want to make the 13-hour drive out to Devil's Elbow to get a taco? Yeah, not one. I wouldn't either. I don't blame you. See, this is a bit of a vast over-exaggeration of the issue at hand, but I'm sure most of us have experienced this in our day-to-day lives. For example, back in my hometown, there were maybe just a small handful of burger joints where I lived. One of them was in that little strip mall I mentioned earlier. It was about a 2-minute drive away. My family and I would go there every couple months or so because it was the most convenient and easiest place to get a burger. Thing about this place, though, is it's kind of terrible. Like, really, really not good. One Yelp reviewer lovingly stated, it's an excellent place if you're looking for a bad experience. Thing is, we were looking for a bad experience because who wants to drive 30 minutes to get a burger that's maybe subpar at best? There was not great food where we lived. Terrible burger, I swear. So the point I'm trying to make is that in Richmond, there's a burger place on every corner. There's some new food to try. There's a small business that can open. These were all things that we didn't have in my hometown. In Richmond, there are places to gather. There's arts and music, community organizations. There are ways to get involved with the people around you. This was not really a thing back where I lived. Even though Richmond is no pedestrian utopia and in fact, can even be kind of dangerous. I know my palms sweat every time I'm driving around here. It's still leagues better because at least there's a sense of community. I haven't met easily 90% of my neighbors back in my hometown. Easily 90%. Isn't that kind of sad? In Richmond, I'm talking to new people every day. It's wonderful. When you realize that walkable cities are directly linked to better mental health, better overall health of the public, and higher economic growth, it's no wonder that the Netherlands is the 5th happiest country in the world. This takes me to an example of what we could be following. Amsterdam. Amsterdam has expansive public transit, bike paths that span through the entire city. It's a city that's made for pedestrians. If you take a comparison of the maps of Chicago public transit and Amsterdam's public transit, you'll realize you cannot get anywhere in Chicago via bus or metro. In Amsterdam, you can get anywhere you want to go, and this includes the suburbs. They can take you in and out of the city, around the city, from suburb to suburb, part of city to part of city, anywhere, literally anywhere. This is not anything you can find in America. It's time for the United States to catch up. We need to start developing our cities with people in mind and not vehicles. And when that day comes, maybe we can finally be a contender for one of the happiest nations in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler, for that insightful talk into how we may build a more sustainable, walkable future. Our next speaker, Padmini Simhan, is a master's student studying marketing management, and her experience in traditional South Indian Carnatic music and Bharatanatyam dance struck with her as she evolved academically. This inspired her to continue learning and inquiring about music. Bimini's talk will take a look at the state of today's popular music and how it is being impacted by the app of the future, TikTok. Please welcome Padmini Simhan to the TEDx stage.
It is a little weird.
Oh, no, you're good. Thank you. Picture this. I'm riding in the car with my dad when he turns on the radio. Now, I haven't listened to the radio in a while, so I wasn't expecting to recognize any of the songs. But then something strange happened. I found myself singing along to certain parts of the songs, specifically the catchy hook lines. At first, I was confused. I didn't remember ever hearing these songs, and I definitely didn't recognize the titles. It wasn't until later when I realized where these hook lines were coming from. TikTok. For those of you who aren't familiar with TikTok, it's a social media platform where users create and share short videos, often with viral sounds in the background. These sounds can come from new music by popular artists, lesser-known musicians, or even older songs that suddenly resurface. TikTok's popularity really took off in 2020 during the rise of the pandemic, with everyone being at home searching for platforms to use to keep themselves entertained. This popularity not only increased the number of users on this platform, but also the amount of content that's being shared on here. Creators were given the chance to expand their content and also gain a larger audience, mainly because of the setup of TikTok's algorithm. This algorithm can help anyone, regardless of their background or experience, and yes, that includes the teenager down the street, my mom, or even Rihanna having the chance of going viral. It's definitely an exciting time to be a part of the digital world. But the rise of TikTok and other emerging technologies isn't just affecting content creators and social media platforms. It's also impacting everyday consumers like you and me. The real question is, how do we feel about this change as consumers? And what impact is it having on our daily lives? The truth is, many of us may not even be aware of the ways in which emerging technologies are affecting our lives. From the algorithms that curate our social media feeds, to data that's being collected about our behavior online, these changes are shaping the way in which we interact with the world around us, with one area where this impact is especially pronounced: the music industry. But what is it about TikTok that has made it such a powerful force in this industry? Well, the answer really lies in its trending sounds. Millions of users create new opportunities for artists and fans alike by using the same sounds to surround their unique videos. This has changed the future of music in ways in which we couldn't have even imagined just a few years ago. Let's take a closer look at some of the specific ways in which TikTok is affecting the music industry. First, we have influencers who are now able to achieve celebrity status by having their music ranked on the top US music billboards. I'm sure several of you have heard of the song Old Town Road by Lil Nas X. This country rap song blew up on TikTok and became a viral hit, with millions of users using this song in their videos. Following that, this song became #1 on the Billboard charts. and had become a viral hit to the point where Lil Nas had propelled to stardom. Second, we have foreign musicians who are now able to gain a large audience, helping them overcome traditional barriers to entry to the US music billboards. For example, Korean pop or K-pop groups have been some of these artists to break into the US music industry. A K-pop girl group named New Jeans had only debuted in the middle of 2022, yet they had become the fastest K-pop group in history to enter the Hot 100 charts, and this was because of the virality of their songs Ditto and OMG on TikTok. Both of these songs had ranked at number 96 and 91 respectively, and this massive success has made their music be embraced by fans all over the world. And lastly, we have musicians who are already popular, making music with TikTok sound-like qualities or partnering with TikTok influencers to help disseminate their music as background sounds to videos. This has created a new genre of music that is tailor-made for the platform and has brought even more attention to these artists. The collaboration between famous pop R&B singer Jason Derulo and New Zealand music producer Josh685 is a great example of this. Their song Savage Love had become a viral hit and had peaked at #1 in 17 different countries, mainly because of TikTok users using this track in the background for a popular dance challenge. A few months later, a remix of this song was released with the South Korean septet BTS, and this song then became #1 on the Hot 100 charts. So as we can see, TikTok is having a major impact on the music industry, creating new opportunities as well as reshaping the way in which we discover and consume music. And as technology continues to evolve, we can expect to see even more innovation in this space, bringing us closer to a future where music is more accessible and inclusive to us all. So what exactly are people saying about this? In order to gain a better understanding about how people feel about TikTok's influence, I conducted my own research and analyzed over 200 textual comments from both TikTok and Twitter to see what people were saying about the platform's impact on music. The themes that emerged from the data had provided insights into what people are thinking and how they are feeling. People are surprised and amazed at the platform's impact over the music industry and are even questioning if TikTok has too much control over both the music and the artists. I noticed that another prominent theme is people's concern over the quality of the music as well as the authenticity of the artists who are gaining popularity through this platform. Many questioned whether these artists and songs were truly deserving of the success or if they were simply just benefiting from the viral nature of the app. Others even questioned the authenticity of well-established artists who are now making music with TikTok sound qualities as well as partnering with TikTok influencers, making them wonder if this was a genuine artistic choice or simply a commercial strategy to stay relevant in the fast-evolving industry. As for how people feel about TikTok's influence, many of the emotions were pretty intense. Hate, anger, even disgust. People are sad, if not disturbed, by the state of music because of TikTok's rise to prominence. However, this is only one part of the story, as people have complex feelings and thoughts about the relationship between technology and the creative industries. While TikTok does raise a lot of concern for music as an art form, it also increases access to a more diverse musical landscape, which can evoke excitement. on the bright side, there is some appreciation for TikTok's role in this industry. In fact, some consumers are thankful for it, mainly because of the new opportunities that it's bringing new and independent artists, as well as the recognition that it's giving to existing underappreciated artists. Some even stated that having more places to share music is always better than not having those chances in the first place, with others admitting that TikTok has actually done more good than harm to both the industry and the music. Some consumers even mentioned that they loved the renewed appreciation for older songs that have gone viral on this platform, giving past artists the recognition that they deserve in this day and age. Some examples of older songs that have gone viral on TikTok include Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush, which was originally released in 1985, as well as Break My Stride by Matthew Wilder, which was originally released in 1983. People mentioned that they loved rediscovering classic songs like these because of the resurgence of nostalgia that's creating a more inclusive industry for all. So, what we have learned from this is that TikTok is a great equalizer for music influencers and artists, providing them a platform to showcase their talent as well as be able to gain a large following without the need for traditional industry connections. This allows creativity to be the center basis for success. However, while it does create new opportunities, it may also limit creativity, as many artists are now creating music or using sounds that were designed to go viral on the app. This really highlights the importance of having a balance between creating popular content as well as maintaining artistic integrity. So it really seems like TikTok is the central part of the current ecosystem to deliver music. But how will this ecosystem evolve? What is next for music as an art form, where creating good music is now synonymous with creating viral music? Which other art forms and industries are next in line to be transformed? And what is the next emerging technology that's going to have an impact on us all? What is the next viral spiral? Thank you.
Wow, thanks Padmini for the insight on today's music. Now, back again to perform one of her songs that is yet to be conquered by tweens on TikTok is A Money. Everyone, please welcome her back to the stage.
Hi guys. I hope everyone is feeling inspired and excited. I'm gonna perform one more song for y'all. This one is titled Loyalty. It's off of my latest EP project. And it's just about how I think it's so amazing how people can switch up. Got me asking, where's the loyalty? Amazing how they switch up with the loyalty. Best believe I cut them off, treat me like royalty. You know I got it going on, I be real busy. Working hard on the job, give me that salary. Amazing how they switch up with the loyalty. Best believe I cut them off, treat me like royalty. You know I got it going on. Working hard on the job, give me that salary. Don't tell me what to be running the game. They can't do it like me, don't look for my name. Cause I be on bigger shit and I'm a boss. Yeah, I put a triggers, bitch. When I set the mood. Put your bit by noon. I stay in the way while I talk to the moon. Bruno Trap again, I'm missing your groove. Drake said it first, no, I gotta have to. One for the plug and one for my boo. I won't get a man unless I like his shoes. It's also the president, can't look at the news. Really thought they cared. Yeah, my heart's in a cage, never come out too scared. Blamed it was my loss, baby, I do not lose. I do not chase, no and I do not prove. Nothing left to say, you were just one of a few. I'll forget about you in just a day or two. Where's the loyalty? Treat me like royalty. You know I got it going on, I be real busy. Give me that salary. Amazing how they switch up with the loyalty. Treat me like royalty. You know I got it going on, I be real busy. Give me that salary. It helps in the end, my morals, my goals are full speed ahead. Since I stepped up just in my brain, too many people got too big a head. All in my notes, but all my messages are dry as oats. Just leave his ass already, no point in wasting my time. Not my fault he loses change, he coulda had a dime. My sister be down living in Carolina. She only gets hated on cause they know she's shining. They know to watch, I got people breathing down her spine and out here stealing and they lying. They can't take that she's a lion. And the credit stacked up tall, so many wanna see her fall, but she pushed through and beat them all. Getting through the mental state without my sister in this world, man, I would not be worth a pearl. She always made me feel okay, nobody like her in this way. I love my sis, what can I say? Where's the loyalty? Treat me like royalty. You know I got it going on, I be real busy. Working hard on the job, give me that salary. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Oh my God. I want to take a selfie with everyone. Please. Okay, are you guys ready? Okay, one over here. Oh my God, and over here. So cute. Thank you guys so much. Oh my gosh. Thank you guys. I hope you guys enjoy our last speaker, and I'll see you guys at the end of the show. Have a great evening.
Phenomenal performance once again, A-Money. Thank you for sharing your powerful music with all of us. Now we've made it to our final speaker of the night. Dr. Garrett Westlake is the Executive Director of VCU's Da Vinci Center for Innovation. He will share with us an experience that is personal to him, yet shared by many students, both around the world and within our community. His evolution from a student struggling with neurodivergency to an academic of notable success is a story of inspiration and perseverance. Here to share his take on reframing neurodivergency is Dr. Garrett Westlake.
Something you should know about me is that I hate school. I have always hated school. School was where I felt like an outsider, like I didn't belong. But for as much as I hated school, I have always loved learning. Now, maybe it's a little bit of a surprise how long I've actually spent in school for how much I hate it. or the fact that I've made a career working in education. Some of my earliest memories of school are from the first grade, shortly after a conversation that took place between my first grade teachers and my parents that went something like this: "We need to talk. There's something wrong with your kid." In the first grade, I was diagnosed with dyslexia and dysgraphia. All that meant for me as a first grader was that suddenly I was removed from class with my peers. I was in tutoring and remediation, and worst of all, I had to use these plastic pencil grips that really hurt. The explanation I was given to make this all okay was that there was something different in my brain. That made it feel a lot better. When I was in elementary school, there was no Americans with Disabilities Act. There were no legal protections for students with learning disabilities. So every year, there was a constant negotiation between my parents and teachers over accommodations. Every year, I felt more and more like a freak, like a mutant, and like I didn't belong in school. Flash forward to high school. I walk in to take the SAT. I'm protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act. I now have the right to accommodations. I walk into the auditorium with my number 2 pencil and my calculator. I sit in my wooden desk. And the proctor calls me out by name in front of all of my classmates and tells me that because I have a disability and accommodations, I need to walk to the back of the class and go down the hall to take my test with accommodations. It's what every high schooler dreams of. I did great on the SAT that day. Flash forward to college. Whether it was because of embarrassment or shame or a fierce independence streak, I didn't register with the Disability Resource Center where I went to college. I was going to do it on my own. I almost failed out my freshman year. I returned back sophomore year, humbled, using accommodations, but facing a new challenge. All my peers seem to know what they want to study. I'm forced to pick a major, struggling with what it is that I really want to learn about. And I keep coming back. In the academy, we say that research is me-search. Why was my brain different? I wanted to understand my own dyslexia. So I pitched the college on designing my own major, a major in cognitive science, where I would study dyslexia from multiple perspectives: linguistics, computer science, psychology. I did a senior thesis looking at how we might use machine learning so that machines would learn to read and develop dyslexia, with the goal that we could run interventions on machines instead of kids. In an era of ChatGPT and natural language processing, this feels more accessible than ever. But more than 20 years ago, this was still the stuff of science fiction. So I decided that what I could do was to give back. I could use my privilege of having earned a degree and gotten accommodations to help other students who were also probably hating school. I got a master's in special education, and I started my career as a coordinator of a disability services office for a rural community college outside of Nashville, Tennessee. I started working with a number of students on the autism spectrum, running a group for them, and I started to observe their hidden identities. You see, this community college had a real treasure. We had one of the best college radio stations, run almost exclusively by students with autism. One day, a number of executives from Music Row in Nashville came to our community college to interview the weird kids in sound engineering who ran the radio station. Maybe it was all the comic book and superhero talk in group that we did, but I started to see the students that I worked with as superheroes. They had these alter egos that they had to assume to go work in industry. But behind the scenes, they had superpowers. Their attention to detail, their relentless persnicketyness over sound is what makes every record cut in Nashville so good. You want those individuals with superpowers in those roles. This stuck with me. When I moved to an R1 institution as a director of disability resources, now working with hundreds and thousands of students with disabilities. Now my students with autism were getting degrees in computer science and engineering. I was amazed at how far accommodations had come, how much more inclusive higher education had become. And yet, so many of my students, upon graduation, failed to get jobs alongside their peers. It turns out it wasn't just my students. The unemployment rate for an individual with a 4-year degree in a STEM field and a diagnosis of an autism spectrum disorder is 51%. 51% unemployment rate for individuals with a 4-year degree in STEM. To me, this wasn't just a number. These were students that I had walked alongside, helped them in their struggle to achieve equity in the classroom, and now they can't put their skills to use in the private sector. I needed to take immediate action, not start new programs. So I founded a company. I started a tech company that employed individuals on the autism spectrum while they were still in college. A company that could give people their first job, a portfolio of experiences, job references to help them break into the private sector. It was in this role that I got to travel across the country, meeting with some of the most exceptional people I've ever met. One young woman will always stick with me. A computer science math double major at Georgia Tech. We sit down and I got a chance to ask her the question that I asked all my applicants: what keeps you up at night? What she told me kept her up at night were the poor algorithms used to level international currency. A lot of things keep me up at night. That is not one of them. Right? She would look at the currency markets and take $1, trade it through 40 currencies and have it come back as $1.02. And what bothered her was not that people weren't profiting from this, but the bad math. And it really bugged her. When I tell this story, people always ask, oh, so you hired her? Did she go onto Wall Street? Does she work at Goldman Sachs? No. She was not as fortunate as my students in Nashville. You see, Wall Street didn't appreciate her hoodie and didn't like that she didn't like to make eye contact. She was a superhero, but she couldn't maintain the alter ego she needed to make it in the private sector. The range of normal and typical was too narrow for her superpowers. It was in the course of running this company, finishing a PhD in special education, that I was consuming so much information. I was learning every day. I loved it. I read a book by Daniel Pink. I was reading it for business insights. There was a chapter devoted to dyslexia. Among the amazing research that he captured was that individuals with dyslexia are 4 times more likely to be self-made millionaires, are more innovative, are able to take abstract concepts and connect them. I was struck reading this book about how differently that conversation would have gone with my parents in the 1st grade. Congratulations, we have great news. Garrett has dyslexia. He is 4 times more likely to be a self-made millionaire. In 2nd grade, we're going to pair him with an entrepreneur in residence. We can't wait to see what he does. No. And not just that conversation, but the fact that I had earned degrees from some of our most prestigious institutions and never known some of these other aspects associated with dyslexia. How many students, how many parents, how many teachers didn't have that information? What would the impact of just simply sharing that information be? So I made a pivot. I made a pivot to focus on cross-disciplinary education and higher education, on innovation and entrepreneurship. Because the more I leaned into innovation and entrepreneurship, the more I found the others, the people too weird and too different to fit in. And that difference is what gave them the insights into the future. It is no surprise that some of our most celebrated innovators and entrepreneurs are college and university dropouts. that our systems in school and college and work are uncomfortable with difference. It's also no surprise that those same companies, founded by college dropouts, on the cutting edge of innovation, employ a workforce that's more comfortable wearing hoodies, that prioritize a workforce for their technical abilities over their ability to make eye contact and their social skills. Imagine what the future would look like if our schools, if our businesses were open to superheroes. Imagine if we created structures where our most talented and brightest individuals didn't have to drop out, but could stay in school. Imagine a workplace that could employ those 51% of STEM graduates that are unemployed. We need new ideas now more than ever. Thankfully, the answer is right in front of us. As a professor of innovation, I am always asked how organizations and companies can be more innovative. And the key is diversity. Diversity of perspective, of experience, and openness to bringing those perspectives into our organizations only enriches the work that they do. If you asked my children who the X-Men are, they would tell you that they're superheroes. As adults, we know the X-Men are a comic about mutants who struggle to fit in society. I want to live in the future as my children see it, in a world full of superheroes. Thank you.
Thank you, Garrett, for that eye-opening talk. And while we're at it, let's give another round of applause for all of our speakers tonight. Now, it's no secret that quite a few people were involved in the planning of this event. So at this time, I'd like to welcome our entire planning team to the stage.
They're coming from everywhere, so it might be a moment.
They're a little scattered.
This is the amazing team that put this entire event together. If you are at all interested in joining this team next year, we're going to start recruiting in April. So if you're interested in curating speakers, putting on the production and experience of the event, marketing of the event, putting on smaller salons event throughout the year, if any of that sounds interesting to you, make sure that you visit our info table in the reception and also follow us on Instagram. Join our newsletter so that you get all updates on when we put out our interest form and application form and all that good stuff.
I'd also like to take this time to thank the ICA for allowing us to host our event here, as well as the amazing A&V staff, particularly the A&V tech coordinator, Vanna. She is up there. Give her a round of applause. I'd also like to take this time to thank our sponsors briefly. You can see them behind me.
And I would like to thank the entire planning team behind me. None of this event would have been possible without any one of you, so thank you for your hard work, your dedication, your time, your effort, everything. It doesn't go unnoticed. And I'd like to give a special little shout out to our seniors, Chris, Abby, and Shreya. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to work with you guys over the past 2 years. Oh, I'm getting emotional. I can't imagine what this organization looks like without you. I'll have to find out next year, but that's going to be a sad moment. So yeah, thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of you. And a special thank you to Justin Rival, our staff advisor as well. He is truly the driving force behind our organization, the glue that holds everything together. Literally none of this would be possible without him. He answers every question I could ever have and is really what keeps everything together. So thank you.
Good luck next year. I don't know what you're going to do without us. All right. At this time, we are now going to have everybody file into the auditorium, or not auditorium, out of the auditorium into the Royal Forum, where we will be having a reception for everybody. There will be food, drinks, activities. You'll have a chance to speak with our speakers, ask them questions, things like that. So at this time, feel free. Thank you guys.
Enjoy.